Well, it's the end of yet another week, and here on this channel, that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend, I post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week, things started to settle down a bit after the trade deadline came and went last week, but there's still a ton to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post either on the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now, so if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, it turns out about 65% of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so please, if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only would it help out a ton, but I would also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first take we'll be discussing comes to us from Aesir, and he says that the Nets have found their interior defender for their lineup that they've been looking for in Nicholas Claxton. Now, it's no secret that, especially early on in the season, the Nets' defense was a pretty big concern. DeAndre Jordan was looking pretty washed, teams were parading their way into the paint at will and getting tons of easy points, and because of this struggle defensively, there was even more pressure on their offense to perform night in and night out at a high level. Now obviously the Nets have arguably more offensive firepower than anybody else in the league, so it hasn't really caused them too many big problems, but at the same time it was something that needed to be addressed for games that matter later on. Their moves at the trade deadline and in the buyout market got all the attention when they brought in guys like Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge, but honestly, while almost everyone else was freaking out about that, I wasn't too concerned with it because both of those players are way past their primes, and they also both struggle defensively at this point. However, within all of that noise, they've uncovered an incredible hidden gem that could slide perfectly into their lineup to address these weaknesses, and that's obviously Nicholas Claxton. Claxton was injured early on in the season, so while these issues became apparent, he wasn't immediately available to make his presence felt, but ever since his return to the court 17 games ago for the team, he's been playing some terrific basketball, and I don't think enough people are recognizing it. Claxton's a young second-year player who's 6'11", he's got a ton of energy, he does very well contesting shots and protecting the rim, he's comfortable and confident switching out onto the perimeter as well, which is a very rare trait and valuable trait for a big defender to have, and his chemistry with the team's superstars in the pick and roll on offense is great. So because of all of this, I think that as long as the team doesn't bury him on the bench in favor of those veterans that they just brought in, then they should be good to go for the most part. The next take we'll be discussing comes to us from Jack, and he says that the Bulls made a huge mistake trading for Nikola Vucevic at the deadline. So the reason this take is here is most likely because the Bulls have yet to win a game since his arrival, losing 3 games in a row, while simultaneously, Vucevic's former team, the Magic, have won 2 in a row without him, which definitely seems bad on paper, but we need to take a deep breath here and not overreact. The Bulls made the move because they saw that there's a real chance they could make the playoffs this year. Well, obviously that 3-game losing streak hasn't helped all that much, as they're now 3 games back of the 8th seed in the standings, but the point remains that it was an aggressive move where they exchanged pretty fair value in return for an all-star caliber player at a position of need. Zach LaVine was absolutely going to begin to grow impatient with the team if they stood pat in the realm of mediocrity forever and continued to miss the playoffs. So the front office showing him and the rest of the squad that they want to push the team forward is a big step. The duo of Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic is genuinely one of the most talented duos in the league right now, and while it's off to a rocky start, I think it could be a phenomenal move for the team long term. Chemistry takes a while to build, and with LaVine's growing dominance as a scorer and Vucevic's versatility as an inside-out big man that can also pass pretty well and play unselfishly, I think in due time they'll definitely get going. The next take we'll be discussing comes to us from Ryan, and he says that Victor Oladipo will never return to his former All-Star caliber form from before his injury, and that he's not enough to get the Heat back to the top like they were last year. Well, to start things off here, obviously the Oladipo addition was solid for the Heat just based on the price they paid for him alone, having only had to give away Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, and an opportunity to swap picks in 2022 that isn't even all that likely to happen, so it was a bargain no matter how you look at it. Now, shifting the focus over to how Oladipo actually is as a player now, and if he puts them over the hump, that's an entirely different story. Oladipo has always been, since the day he was drafted, a terrific perimeter defender, and throughout the Heat's inconsistent season, that has definitely been an area of concern at times, with guys like Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson struggling in that regard. It was very evident in Oladipo's first game with the team that his defense made an impact at times guarding Steph Curry and the rest of the Warriors in that matchup, but at the same time, the reasons to worry were also on display not only in that game, but so far all season long with him. Offensively, Oladipo is a 20-point scorer this season, but it's because of the volume of shots that he puts up. What worries me is that he still has the mindset that he had 3 years ago before his injury, where he thinks of himself as a legitimate star and takes the kind of shots that stars take, but his ability to make them just isn't there as much anymore at all. Rockets fans grew very frustrated with him because of this, and his inefficiency has been a consistent problem. On the Heat, they don't need him to dominate the ball or shoot tough shots, but he still kind of has it ingrained in him to do so, and his success there will be based on if he buys in and changes the way that he plays a little bit. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing comes to us from Kabir, and he says that De'Aaron Fox continues to be the most underrated player in the NBA right now. Fox, especially lately, has been having an outstanding season individually, and his production is on par with some of the best players at the point guard position. He's scoring about 24 points per game, he's shooting an efficient 48% from the field, and he's dishing out about 7 assists per game as well, and all in all, he's the guy that makes the Kings go. Now, with that being said, as is the case with almost all young rising stars, you don't really begin to fully get the recognition you deserve until you start to win, and the Kings are only in 11th place in the West right now. Now, by no means at all am I laying the blame on Fox for this, but it just is what it is, and production doesn't get properly rated, it seems, by most until it's being done on a winning team by most casual observers of the game, whether it's fair or not. I think Fox absolutely has all the makings of a future multiple-time All-Star, and truly great point guard that can lead good teams, and he still has so much time to do that, but he just isn't quite there yet. So in many ways, I do agree that he is and will likely continue to be at least a bit underrated for a little while longer. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.